put it on our pages like last week? Okay, thank you.
Well, praise the Lord. Right here on KAZ Radio, where I have one of my most favorite shows, Pause, with Robyn and Honey. Take it away, Pause.
Well, hello and welcome back. We are back, honey. We are back.
Welcome back. Number 2.
Yes, number 2. We got to get in our groove now. We got to get in our groove. I am Robyn Hill, one of the hosts here at the Pause. I'm a mental health therapist. I've been practicing like forever. I've been in private practice for 11, probably going on 12 years now. I've lost count. I've been that, and I also am a director at an agency here in the city as well. So I've been doing a lot of work with mental health trauma over the years, and so that's a little spiel about me. What else? Wrote a couple books on trauma and healing. It's a devotional type thing, and we'll get more into as the season goes on into what I've done. But that's just a little bit.
And I am Honey. I am a poet. I think once you use the word poet, you kind of wrap up all that I am. Poet for me stands for power over emotional trauma. So everything that I stand for is not just, I'm not a spoken word artist in the sense of your words rhyme with the table and I am ultimately able. That's not who I am. I am the type of, if I'm not an artist, is helping you identify your trauma, those wounds, and finding a way to write them out, to talk about it, to deal with it, and to ultimately heal. Mm-hmm. So that's who I am. I'm a healing, almost a poetry therapist. I use the power of words as God has always given them to me with other people, whether I'm working with kids, women, families. There's always some poetry somewhere, and I can't help it. You know, the kids in school who used to beat on desk, it's not like you could help that. It's part of who you are. So that's who I am. I'm always going to speak in lyrics some kind of way. It's always been who I am.
Yes. And let me just say this, because I just feel like the enemy just be trying to stop this show, because I do believe we are going to be bringing healing in this show. Because the migraine today, I'm sipping coffee just to clear my head up some to get through today. I had to leave work early just to lay down in the dark to get prepared for tonight. And I know you mentioned you had a migraine too. Last week it was a sinus infection for me. I was on antibiotics when I slid in here all like Eddie Kane Jr. at the last minute. Just so I know that this is going to be good. The stuff that we're going to be bringing here is going to be good, because just the little stuff that we deal with just to get here every Monday evening now is just becoming a thing. So just be ready for what we're going to be talking about. Before we get into that, I do want to announce this Saturday is the Professional Black Christian Therapists Network's conference. I am one of the founding members of that organization, and we will be having our conference December 4th, and it is called Empowering Culturally Diverse Therapists During a Pandemic. It is for therapists, but it's also for helpers, for clergy. We definitely want to have that cross the aisle conversation with helping people. So yes, we'll be talking about private practices and therapists and stuff, but if you are clergy, please attend this conference as well. If you are in any kind of form of ministry and helping people, you need to learn about mental health and how to work with these people. So please come out, register. The registration is online. Professional Black Christian Therapist Network .org is the name of the website. Check out the conference. It's October 4th. It will be from 9 to 3:15. If you are a licensed professional, there are CEUs available. There's 4 workshops. In total, there's 6.25 CEUs. 5 of those are ethics. So you definitely want to get this conference because you want those ethics CEUs that are required for your license. So check it out. I'm not going to go into all the details. I will be doing 2 of the workshops that are I'll be co-facilitating 2 of the workshops that'll be at that conference. So check that out. And I hope to see you all Saturday. So that's my announcement. Did you have any announcements?
No, I don't.
Nope. Okay. All righty. So I was watching church this past Sunday. I visited Bethany. Is it Bethany Church of Christ? Bethany Christian Church. It's Bethany. And the pastor was preaching about Naomi, but she was going somewhere else. And this is my issue when I go to church and I hear sermons. God take me somewhere else. So she was preaching about something about Naomi, but I got stuck at call me Mara. Mara, how do you say it? Mara. And I just got stuck there because I've been seeing and hearing a lot of bitterness. It seems like a lot of people are in a place of bitterness. I've even felt myself even in a place of bitterness at times on things. And so I felt like let's talk about bitterness. Let's get into that. Let's dissect that issue a little bit or a lot of it. So
a lot of it, because a lot of people are impacted with it.
Yeah.
And some people don't even know. They don't even think they're bitter.
Right.
They think they're justified in their anger and their venom, the way they talk to people. And so I've always kind of loosely been interested in the topic of bitterness, but more from a cognitive perspective. Mm-hmm. What you feed your brain and what you say every day and how you train up bitterness. Mm-hmm. Nobody just wakes up bitter. No baby, I don't care what you say, was born into this world as a bitter baby.
No.
He come here crying for his needs to be met.
Mm-hmm.
Does not come here crying because he's bitter with the world. However, there are some things that happen to him or her at a young age that does impact. I'm not making an excuse or giving a crutch.
Right.
But it does impact the way you operate with other people and you think it's justified. You jacked up from childhood and you need some therapy.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of rough to say.
No, it's not. When we look at it from a behavioral standpoint, behavioral therapist or behavioral interventionist, there's a word that they call antecedent, mm-hmm. right? So when there's a behavior, then there's an antecedent. So in order to change a behavior, first you got to identify the antecedent. What caused the behavior? And in order to change the behavior, we got to find the cause and deal with the cause and maybe change what is causing that behavior so that you can eventually change. So if you got a kid who's biting people, okay, so what happens every time a child bites somebody? Is it every time you leave them alone? Okay, let's try to not leave them alone all the time. You know, maybe we need to fill up their time with something else so that they can stop biting people or something like that. So what is the antecedent? And so when you're looking in the story of Naomi and Ruth, because we always say, like, who hurt you?
Yeah.
Who hurt you when we think about a bitter person? But when you look at Naomi and Ruth's story, Naomi's story, not Ruth, because this is Naomi's story. We always get caught up with Ruth. This is Naomi's story. The antecedent wasn't who hurt her. The antecedent was who left her. Who did she lose? Mm-hmm. And I think that we don't deal with loss. And that is the root. If we look at Naomi as the blueprint for bitterness, we don't address loss. Whether it's abandonment, whether it's death, whether it's whatever, we don't deal with loss like we should. And what made Naomi bitter and what's making a lot of people bitter today is we don't deal with loss.
Yeah. And I think some people, you have to look at loss differently from just, it's acceptable that you feel a certain way when loss deals with life. Mm-hmm. But we don't deal with loss when it deals with these other things that are so significant. Loss of the norm in our lives mm-hmm. when our parents divorce.
Yeah.
Loss of the structure when we move to a different school. Mm-hmm. Just loss. But this is not a show where it's all on the negative side, because I've been doing a little prayer on this issue, and there's hope at the end of this tunnel. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like there's some light at the end of this, and so I think I have some of the, as we unpack this in the next minutes and time that we have together, some of the answers on this, because this doesn't have to be your story.
Right.
Because you lost. You don't, to me, it just doesn't give you the right. And we deal with this in the workplace where, we have that person who you come in Monday. Today's Monday after a holiday. So I'm in a good mood, typically.
Yeah.
I do have a headache, but I'm in a good mood at the same time. And you come in, you're angry about what are you mad about?
Yeah.
What are you so mad about? And why not stay home? Why must you sprinkle that on everybody else? Or especially if I offer you, can I help you in any way? Because that's typically my way.
Yeah.
Whether it's sarcasm or authentic, that's still my way.
Right.
Can I help you, sister? Can I help you? What's wrong? What's wrong? Can I get lunch for us to share?
Right.
So I can deal something. But beyond that, can you deal with your bitterness so you can stop spewing it on other people in the space? It's uncomfortable.
The self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know that you're why is it that we lack the awareness that I'm in a bad mood, and that no one deserves to be pooped on by me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in a mood, but I don't have to project that onto other people. I should be self-aware enough to say, you know what, I am not feeling good today. And so I'm not going to give that to you. I'm just going to stay to myself because I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
Why don't we have that self-awareness? How do we create that within ourselves? Because some people just don't have it.
So I think you have to be real honest. Like you said, self-awareness calls for honesty, and some of that is painful. I'm reading a book, and it came out a couple years ago, Iyanla Van Zant. I don't typically read a lot of her stuff since college, but it's called Get Over It. And so I'm about midway through in the book, and one of the things she kind of challenges, the title alone is just so aggressive, I almost didn't read it. When you hear somebody tell you something like, get over it, you're like, get over it? You don't know what I've been through. You can't tell me to get over it. But what that does, when you put that directly in somebody's face, it shifts the blame. It's so easy to say, even for me, I'll take my own life. It's so easy to say, I got the right to be mad. Look what happened to me. Look who left me. Look who dropped me. Look who broke me. I got a right to take that out on the rest of the world. I don't have that right. Because then all that bitterness does is comes back on me, and I spew that in illness.
Yeah.
And so I think, the only way we really unpack that, we have to look at that from a cognitive place and what you are feeding yourself. But if you're unwilling to, if you have already determined there's nothing wrong with me, I'm not bitter, there's nothing past that sentence.
Yeah.
Then that's it right there.
Yeah. So
Period.
so now how do you? So what are the indicators of bitterness then for the people who don't know that they're bitter?
So, you got me in all these books.
Right.
P. Bunny Wilson has this book I read in college called Betrayal's Baby. And it basically talked about, you go through all this crap, not sitting in your mind and in your spirit like, oh yeah, we about to get together. What's up, crap over there? And your crap just start kicking it with each other, and they start producing some crap, on top of some crap. And you are the reflection of all the crap that you've been through.
Right.
You got to be cognitive enough. And this is a prayer I have daily because I have such bitterness in certain areas of my life, and I never want to spew it on the people who look to me for guidance and direction. So let me give you an example. Can I give you a quick example?
Go ahead.
So my twin sister, who I have custody of, is just so sweet. She has developmental delays, she's technically disabled. I have custody of her. Sweet as apple pie, And when I got custody of her, we were in the therapist for the first time, hospitalized, going through all these pieces. And the doctor was asking her all these different questions. Tell me about your mother. I'm sitting there in the back. This is her therapy appointment. Sitting there in the back. She's giving some information. Yada, yada, yada. Then the doctor says, okay, sugar, tell me a little bit about your father. And I'm sitting there like, ooh, this is getting good. I got to hear this. And so I leaned in. I'm all in. I'm interested in this conversation. And she says, oh, my father's a really good person. Now I'm sitting there, I'm already perturbed by the whole conversation. And I'm saying, honey, now this is not your situation. Leave this girl alone. I couldn't take it no more. But she just kept reading, and the therapist was like, yeah, so he's a good guy? She's like, yes, he is. I interjected. I was like, excuse me, I got to interject her session. How can you say this is a good guy We have never met any member of his family, including him. How can you say it's a good guy? So she sat there in her cognitive reasoning with life, and she says, honey, because you haven't met a person, does that mean they're not a good person? You haven't met them, and that makes them not a good person. That doesn't make sense to me. And I just sat there. I said, excuse me, I'm going to have to excuse myself from this session, because her mind doesn't process bitterness like me.
Yeah.
And so because I did hold that bitterness and that venom, I'm cognizant not to put that on her, because she's so innocent.
Yeah.
For her, it would have been, if your parents left you, perhaps they were going to make a better life. I'm like, what?
Pollyanna. Yeah.
She is. So you make a choice. Using her as an example, you can make a choice. And I do make that choice now. That bitterness can't lead my way, because it tell on you. You know, it's not just you spewing dung on somebody else. People smell it before you arrive.
Yeah.
You got issues. And people say, you've got issues.
Right.
Constantly talking about somebody else. Bitterness issues, not the other people. It's you.
Right.
It's you.
Right.
Somebody always did you wrong. Not the other people. It's you. Every man didn't beat you. Every man a dog.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's you. And how can I say that? Because these are real life situations I've had to deal with me. Honey, some of this is you now. Get your head in the game, play. This is you. This is you.
So one of the I did grief recovery. You know, that's one of the big I want to pop things now. I as a clinician, I always get like, ugh, when things are really pop. But I did grief recovery back when I was in ministry in a former life. That was probably about 15, probably almost 20, 20 years ago, because Booty is 17. So probably about 17, 18 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years ago. I did grief recovery back then. And so they had this thing in there where you do your timeline of loss. And you go through your life and you mark down from your first memory. You got to put your first known memory in life. And I remember, like, my first memory was my mama going to the store and telling me to sit still and not move. She had to run. I think it was snowing outside and she didn't want to pack up all the kids. It was me and my baby brother was a baby. My little brother was a baby. And she just sit still because she knew I'm like one of those kids that I would follow directions to the T. I think she had to run up the street and run right back. And we said, that's my earliest memory. I had to be about 2 or 3 years old. Don't call child service on her. We old now. But you put your earliest known memory and then you do a timeline of all your losses that up until your current age. And then you even draw a line as far as the intensity of those losses. And I remember doing my timeline and I had to like block out a period of my childhood because of school. And it just being, I couldn't even put like memories. It just was like this time period where I was picked on, you know, and it just was a block. 4th, 6th grade was just, I don't even want to even go into that phase. And so, but what it gives you is this visual of all your stuff. And when it says losses, it's not just about death. Yeah. And that's what you have to realize when you talk about losses. Like when you're dealing with losses, it's a lot of pain that you're dealing with. And so when you do your whole timeline of losses, and you see all the stuff that you've been through and that you're carrying with you to this day, and you haven't even processed because no one has ever taught us process this stuff, talk it out, and you looking at like, wow. Now, mind you, at that time, like I said, I did that almost 20 years ago. I was in my 20s. We had people doing that was grown.
Yeah.
Finally just putting all that stuff on paper. Everything they've been through. And probably now if I did it now, it'd be like, ooh. It was not that difficult even then, but I hadn't hardly lived yet. You know, I was 20 something. And so my losses compared to what I probably experience now, having dealt with, you know, bankruptcy and failed marriage and all that stuff, now, it's going to look like something else. But those are the things that you carry with you. So when you talk about, oh, I'm not bitter, draw your timeline. And then tell me what work you did to deal with all those things and how those things are not affecting you today, because chances are it is. You know, there are people who walk in and out of your life daily. There are jobs that you lose daily. or not daily, but you lost jobs. You've had transitions in your life, and those things affect you. They affect how you interact with people. They affect everything. And so that stuff creates your outlook on life. They create how you see people and places, how you deal with things. People get up and leave cities because they think it's the city, because they haven't dealt with some of the stuff that they've had to deal with. Oh, I can't fool with Cleveland no more. I can't deal with that city no more. Really, is it the city?
You take you wherever you at.
Right. Wherever you go, there you are.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Right. So this is where we have to really start to do that inner work. Start looking within, because you have your externalizing behaviors where people spew their bitterness out, and then you have your internalizing behavior where they spew their bitterness within, and they're taking it out on themselves. And you see the negative behaviors internalized. So yeah, you may be smiling at everybody, and you may be nice to everybody, but you're internalizing the behaviors as well. You're not, that bitterness is still there. So
yeah, it's always been me, for sure. I mean, I learned early on I couldn't fight, so I'm not gonna pick it out. I'm not taking it out on anybody else. I knew for a fact, me putting my hand,
you can't fight.
I can't fight. Trust me. That's why that gift, the gab. I'm gonna try my best to talk my way out of it, but I can't fight. I've been in one physical fight in my whole life, and that's because they put their hands on Sugar.
Oh.
And then it was over. But Sugar could always fight. So usually I just sit there and let Sugar scrap it out. 3 against 1, she'd take care of all of them. But then when the fight was unfair at a point, I was willing to go into a dog pen with pit bulls, and they ripped me apart. Not literally, metaphorically, with bats and everything else.
Well, then literally.
Yeah, pretty much literally, but in defense of Sugar. So it was worth it. I had to do it again.
Right.
And ironically, my mind goes back to that day, and the people who were around there, my best friend at the time, you talk about losses, she died yesterday. My best friend in high school, and her twin sister called the day, honey, there's nobody to eulogize her but you. Is that something you're going to do? So I'm here in this moment as we're having this conversation, not thinking I was going to process a loss too, because it is. What happens with me when you talk about that bitterness on the inside, I have done a good job of trying to train myself not to feel. I've tried. Like, it is good I've been through so much pain young, I inoculate myself. I almost tell people entering friendships or relationships, you do know you can't hurt me, right? And that is a sad place to be in.
Yeah.
But I've inoculated myself so much because I'm immune to the crap because of the pain I've been in. That's not the proper way to deal with pain. And because what I do, and you named it, I internalize it, and it becomes still on me. I take it out on me in silence. It doesn't matter because no one sees it, because I'm Paul Laurence Dunbar's mask. I wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be otherwise? In counting all my tears and sighs, nay, let the world only see me while I wear the mask. Then we show the world what we want to see. And we hide behind hallelujah, praise the Lord. And we go home and we cry, or we drink it away, try to do that. Or we try to do everything away, not to admit that I'm hurting, I'm broken, I'm lost. And the reason why you need to admit all that stuff is so that you don't become bitter and take it out on somebody else. Right. It's not their fault. Or even worse, I'm glad you said it, take it out on you. And you don't get to live the abundant life that God anointed. I'm not preaching, but I am telling the truth.
Go ahead, preach.
That God that God anointed and called you to, because there's so much stuff holding you back. So what happens, and Iyanla Vanzant talks a little bit about that in her book, you have to deal with your everyday life, what you just talked about, the divorces, the marriages, loss of job, or whatever else is going on. But you already have this glass that's filled with all of this. I see it as a glass in my head. It's filled with all of this crap from childhood that you never addressed. And so now it's already right here. And so now you got all of today's stuff that's piled up and piled up and piled up and piled up. It's got to go somewhere. So when you ask what happens, how do these people get like that? They got this junk from childhood that they think is okay. Then when it fills up right here and has nowhere to go, you spew it out on everything else around you. And everything else around you is infected by it, impacted by it till at some point, sometimes they can't take it anymore. If they've already done their work, then they're going to do their best to get away from you so that you don't spew that crap onto them.
Yeah.
If they haven't done their work, like a vampire, you just emotionally vampiretize them. I made that up. And they become just like you. And now they're spewing their crap on everybody too.
Right.
And now it's 2 of you and 3 of you, and it multiplies. I don't want to be that person. Lord, my prayer is that you help me address me so that not only do I not infect people who come into contact with me, but I impact them by the fact that I've emotionally done my work. I don't want to be bitter in this lifetime. I want to be better, so that God can get the glory out of my life. That's not a joke. That's not what we saying because we on a radio format. That's literally what I'm aiming for.
Right.
Every day I have breath in my body, which is why, let me say this, which is why I am grateful for people like you in my life, because you help me not to wear that mask. When you call me, it's real. We having a real live conversation.
We sure
This
do.
is the good, bad, ugly, and indifferent. Ain't nothing off limits. We gonna have that so that I don't hold it and it's filled up to here, and I got to be fake and phony and be what the public wants me to be, and I spew it on somebody else.
Right.
But be real so that you can heal. You can't heal wearing that mask. That mask will kill you.
It will.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that
Go
right
ahead.
there.
The thing about the work takes time.
Yes.
But
yes.
awareness can say, you know what? I'm hurt, I'm bitter, I'm whatever. Awareness will just let you know. Even if I'm not healed, I can say, I remember I was talking to somebody this morning about when they put me on some medicine one time. They put me on, my doctors had put me on metformin. And when you're on metformin, you can't get pregnant. So I was married at the time. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there's a possibility of birth defect. So they put me on this birth control called Yaz that came out at the time. Yaz was real popular. It was commercials and stuff. Now, what they didn't advertise that Yaz made you crazy. And so, I was sitting. I'm sitting there, and I remember one of my coworkers was like, "You be careful that Yaz, because you're gonna be moody as ever." She was like, "Ooh, that, you know." So I'm sitting there in the living room. My ex-husband, my husband at the time, is in the office back there. The dining room is in between us. I'm in the living room watching TV. My baby is in there. My son is in there with him, and I felt this anger just come over me. And I looking him back there, and I was cracking my coworker. I was this anger, like I needed to fight somebody, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like, why are you mad? They back there, and then nobody do nothing to you. And I took myself to bed. So my husband at the time came upstairs. He said, "You ain't say goodnight to nobody or nothing." I said, "Cause I felt evil, and I didn't want to spew it on anybody."
Yeah.
Like I literally sent myself to bed like I was a kid. Like, you on the bed, because you're not about to start a fight with anybody in here over nothing. Like no one did anything to you, and you feel angry for no reason. Clearly, it's the medicine. Go take yourself to bed.
Yeah.
And so I made myself take the medicine at night so I could sleep off the crazy. So by morning I was adjusted, and I wasn't, but I wouldn't take it during the daytime because I didn't want to lash out. I had that awareness that this is me, and nobody do nothing to me, and I'm not going to project this onto anyone.
Yeah.
When you're in your healing process, you may not be healed, but you can have awareness. And you can say, this is my stuff. I'm not going to throw this at you. I remember I had a young lady, the husband had an affair, and so we were talking about reestablishing trust. And he was doing everything he could to reestablish trust. He was returning the phone calls. He was letting her know everything. He was showing her that I ain't calling nobody. I ain't texting nobody. He was home for dinner every night, and she just sitting there at the dinner table wanting to hit him with the frying pan. I said, "Well, did he do anything? What did he do to deserve the frying pan?" She said, "He didn't do nothing. I'm just angry." I said, "Well, those are your own internal thoughts. It's in here. So you don't have any right to do anything to him for what's going on in here. If he's doing everything out, now if he had done something
He
else,
did do something.
No, he did. But if he's doing his, but in order, reestablishing trust is a two-way street.
Yeah.
He could sit there and keep working and working and working, but if she doesn't do the effort to try to,
Yeah.
it was never going to get reestablished. So she had to go out on a limb too and say, I have to be in control of my own emotions, because she was going to knock him out with the frying pans. And he's sitting there eating food like, babe, this is delicious.
You
want
swat away.
And he didn't do anything. He's doing everything. And so she had to learn that what goes on internally is her responsibility. What he does is his responsibility. So that you have to learn to regulate your own internal. You can't make anybody else responsible for your internal stuff.
But sometimes the infractions can be so hard.
I'm not saying that he gets away with this was after the screaming matches and the sessions and all that. We done went through all that.
The pain.
We done went through the pain. Now we're trying to, y'all gonna work on this. This is what y'all want to do. This is your agreement. You're gonna move forward. Okay. Because otherwise, if we just gonna keep screaming at each other, this is where it's gonna end.
Yeah.
But we don't realize though sometimes that when we have our own stuff, our internal stuff is our responsibility. Yeah. Now, if he had done something, in which with that particular couple, this was several years ago, there was a text or something. Now you did something. Now she blowing up on you. You brought it on yourself.
Yeah.
But if you coming home because of what happened a year ago, we have to learn how to regulate our own emotions and get out of our own mind to set ourselves free. So, and I think that couple, like I said, that was several years ago. They eventually did work through that. Now, did they have another situation after that? I don't know.
We hope not.
I hope not.
But he wasn't hit with a frying pan or any other, object.
Right. But this is just different examples. Me, I had the medicine example. She had a relationship example. But the common denominator is when you have internal things going on, you are the regulator of that. No one else can regulate what you have going on inside of you. So when you go to work and you feeling dysregulated, just because somebody is breathing loud, or they gotta, they walking loud, or they rustling stuff loud, that's not really the issue. The issue usually is an internal thing. And you have to learn to regulate that. Yes, there are annoying people at your job. Yes,
Yes, there are, for the record.
Yes, there are. But a lot of times, it's our own internal stuff, and it really don't matter. That person can be breathing. It's just how they. That's how I remember being married. Sometimes you'd be like, that's how you chew now. That's how you gonna chew. That's just your own internal stuff.
Yeah, I think even if it is the other person, you find a way to figure out your stuff around it. I am an introvert, so an office with as much noise that I'm in irritates me. Yeah. There are no walls in my office. They talk very loud. It's just everything very loud. It's out of control.
Yeah,
so
I've
people
called
want to
you
know,
when you've been at work,
and I can't take it. There's always going to be headphones for me because I can just disconnect. That's on me. Then I can't stop the environment of how noisy. And this is on my page, so I'm sure they're like, "What? Yes, you're noisy, too noisy." And every
y'all be having
word.
a party at your job.
Yeah, I can't take it though. I have to take it when I serve people. But when I'm in the moment and I need to decompress, I know me. Mm-hmm. So everything else about me, it is my responsibility to know so I don't take it out. Mm-hmm. For example, I do suffer from SAD, seasonal affection disorder. Mm-hmm. So I know that when the weather changes like this and we're not getting much sunlight, it's up to me. I don't miss a day with that vitamin D. It's up to me.
Yeah.
It's up to me to put in, honey, you feel different, and I feel different every year. It is not, oh man, what's going on with me? When I first started to feel it, I noticed it. When I moved from Florida, where I'm in sunshine all the time, all those years in Florida, back here, oh yeah, my mood, my energy, I just felt it. So to purposely, I know for a fact for me, and this is a mixed audience show, so fellas, just, close your ears for a second. I know that for me, there is a certain time of the month I feel different, Mm-hmm. It's not PMS in the sense of anger. I don't get angry. I just get very emotional. And the older I get, the more emotional I get. This ink pen just, I'm like, girl, what are you crying about? Pick up the pen. I don't know why it is. It just is. So what do I do during that time? And one, I'm cognizant of how I interact with people. I know that if you tell me a story about your dog getting run over, it's more than I can take at that time. I need to process that and hear that like, ooh, honey, just try to stick, because I know me. And on top of that, I'm an empath, so I feel people and emotions and things very deeply already. You add that little time every single month, I doubly feel it. So what am I saying with that? You own your emotions, so that this energy emotion, so that you don't spew it on other people.
Yeah.
And I kind of was looking at pause. I was thinking of an acronym for the name of our show. Well, I wasn't thinking of it. It just came to me while I was driving. And that acronym kind of talks a little bit about what I'm saying too. And it stands for purposely attracting uniquely sacred experiences. So I want to purposely attract these uniquely sacred experiences. I want to be purposeful about it. What I think, what I take in, purposeful. And I want them to be unique. Like God tailored this all for me. He tailored it all for me, but I'm going to be so purposeful. I need to be in position to get what he has for me. Like my healing. I'm purposefully doing my work, and I want it to be uniquely for me, and I want it to be sacred. This experience to be something that I hold on to.
I like that.
Purposely attracting uniquely sacred experiences. We're going to get some t-shirts, y'all. So if y'all want a
Yes.
t-shirt,
I like that. And we're going to have some sacred experiences.
We're going to have some sacred
I already
experiences.
thought about we going to the Salt Caves.
Come on, and invite other people to it. So,
wow.
And my last thought on why that's important, because this brain, I do a lot of workshops on brain development for adolescents. I have one coming up, shameless plug, at Case Western Reserve University. CEUs are available too, online experience this time. But this whole powerful computer of the brain that does all these powerful things, the two sides of it, subconscious and conscious brain.
Okay.
So in this conscious of it, you have like 48, that's a lot, 48 thoughts coming out of it every minute.
Okay.
We don't have nothing to worry about with that. We know what those are. I'm going to move this microphone, I'm going to drink this water, very conscious. But 48 of them is still a lot. 48 a minute times 60 minutes times 24. That's a whole lot of thoughts you have. Okay, so I put them in a canister. The real deal, though, is not those 48 a minute. It's the subconscious ones. How do subconscious ones get there? Because I was praying like, God, how do you have the subconscious brain that runs so much faster than the conscious brain? How is it working like this? It's still going while you sleep. That is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And the reason or how, what powers it, what fuels it, it's all fueled by the negative thoughts, a lot of it, that you continuously feed it. So if you really want to not be bitter, because when you told me, that's pretty much where we're going tonight.
Yeah.
You really want to not be bitter, you can't feed the subconscious mind. So you can't control the 48 thoughts you have in a minute. But what about that one negative and then you feed it? No, you got to stop it. I'm cutting it off at the root.
Yeah.
And if you continue just to be a negative piece and you're a person, I'm cutting you off at the root. If you're a job, I'm cutting you off at the root. If you're a raggedy car, I'm cutting you off at the root. So my point in saying it is you cannot feed it because your mind wants to hold on to the negative. It's crazy. You remember what happened to you bad quicker than you remember what happened to you good, right? You remember that negative minute. Hold on to it. How the trauma made you feel. And it just multiplies. It get there and hook up with every other negative thought. Now you got a big monster that your head has created, and it may even be bigger than it was when you started. So you want power over bitterness, you got to stop the multiplication of the negative thought.
Right.
So the negative thought don't seep into your subconscious and reproduce.
Right.
Little brain
development. This is also this is why affirmations is so necessary, and this is why rehearsing positive experiences is necessary, because we have to become very conscious of the positive. It is automatic to focus on the negative. We will tell you, so how's your day going, man? I just, man, it was such a rough day today. It was so many things that was going on, blah, 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 blah. We rarely remember, oh, this person made me laugh today. Let me tell you about this funny joke I heard today. Right. Or, we don't accent those positives. And so we have to become very conscious throughout the day, whether you got to start writing them down, putting them in your phone when something made you smile through the day, so that at the end of the day, you can recall all the good stuff that happened during the day. Because the truth is, when we talking about neuropsych now, we're going to get into neuropsychology, and we start looking at the things that release the endorphins in your brain. Those positive thoughts do release the endorphins. And we talk about releasing dopamine.
Yeah.
We're talking about seasonal affective disorder. We need to release dopamine in the brain, which dopamine is what I call feel-good juices. We have brain juices that flow in our brain, and feel-good juices release when we would think of positive thoughts. You know, when they also release, scientists have found when you worship. So here,
Hallelujah.
there you go.
Don't give me a reason.
You just released the dopamine just now. When you praise the Lord, and when you pray, and when you engage in spiritual disciplines, and when you use affirmations, you are releasing feel-good juices. This is what medicines, a lot of times we use medicines for. I'm not saying use to replace your medicines with this, because sometimes we want to go homeopathic and we're too sick and we don't realize it's time to go for the good stuff. So don't take my things and say, oh, see, I'm going to get off all my meds and I'm just going to pray and I'm going to worship. No. You didn't get that from me.
Sue Robyn, don't sue me, because I didn't say that.
What I'm saying is one thing that you can do to enhance your dopamine and your neurotransmitters to release in your brain is that you affirmations and focusing on positive experiences and worshiping and engaging in spiritual disciplines. Those things will help you to feel better and will help to rewrite those negative experiences in the brain, in that subconscious.
You can.
Because you can't say, I'm just going to erase the tapes in the subconscious, but we can, through repetition, change that subconscious tape.
You can. And as you talk about this neuroscience, some of those synapses and pathways, why the brain is so interested in me, I see it as like this superhighway with lanes going in all these different directions, and all these little neurotransmitters sent to pass messages. Okay, you go here, you go down the street, you go here, you go there. If you stop feeding it, it cuts off that synapse right there. Like, you're done. Just stop the road right there. Stop the road. And I think that makes common sense, don't it? Anything that you feed grows.
Yeah.
Anything that you say, I'm cutting it off right here. But that is not easy. That takes work.
Yeah.
When I decided my pain and my trauma was not going to have power over my life, now I have to deal with, and this is some real talk we're doing right here. Now I have to deal with a life of bitterness. All of this that you see, this obesity, this is padded bitterness. This ain't nothing but physical padded bitterness. But I'm cool with that. I can say that and all and be okay with it because I've dealt with everything that got here. Now I can deal with it, Right. But I had to keep me safe and protected so that nothing would get too close to really penetrate because it already hurt and broke me up so bad. But now I've cut all this stuff off, and now I even laugh, and I mean it.
Yeah.
When I'm saying it, now I can deal with all this. I'm prepared because I've done the work before. And you mentioned it earlier, but that work took time. And it was painful, and it was honest, and it was brutal, and it was emotionally bloody, but I'm better for it.
Yeah.
Now I can go really into all that other stuff. When people say, oh, honey, I've done nothing. That was all practice work. Now I'm ready for destiny. You just watch.
Right.
Buckle up.
Right.
Now. Because I've really dealt with me. Anything else, the saying I used to say all the time, leading while bleeding, bleeding while leading. You leading all right, but you your presence because you're so bloody. Honey, you need to stop. Pump the brakes, baby.
Right.
So that while you're leading, while you're at the mic, while you're preaching, while you're trying to help somebody else, the little blood droplets of who you are doesn't get on somebody else.
Yeah.
Like COVID, like gangrene, like anything else infectious.
Right.
Now I can do the work because I've been cognizant.
Or so you don't just pass out on the battlefield.
Come on, say that too. We do that too.
Yes.
We do that too. I was saying earlier, I was writing in my journal, and I won't share it, but I'll paraphrase that sometimes my life, it was, when you talk about on the battlefield, it was easier to look at the big picture of my work. Because I was an emotional Where's Waldo, that painting. I don't have to, if I look at the world and I'm so busy feeding and clothing and ministering and teaching, the world is easier. But if I got to zero in all the way on Where's Waldo, where's Honey?
Right.
And that's what God was telling me as I'm writing. Where's honey? Honey, where are you? Where are you,
Right,
honey?
right.
Come to me. Where are you, honey? But it's easier. Let me just look at the world and solve a problem. So this little tidbit kind of goes out to the leader, to the wounded healers, to the helpers, so that you aren't bitter as you do this work. At some point, you've got to stop, and it's not selfish. It's wisdom. That self-care is just wisdom, so that you don't pass out on the battlefield, so that you don't bleed on somebody else, and so that your ministry is authentic, so that you come before the presence of God or your work or whatever it is you're trying to do, and you have actually or actualized, and you've reached this place that you're supposed to be in order to do the work.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the big picture and miss Waldo way down there in his little red and white striped and glasses. I don't want to miss Waldo. And Waldo for me is that, where's that place of worship? Where's that place where I'm using all the W's. Where's that place where you're in his word?
Right.
Where's that place of wisdom? Where's Waldo, honey? Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
How can you really zoom in and get to him if you so focused on the big picture and the rest of the world? Zoom on in and get to you.
Right.
That's that hard stuff. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts to do that. If you unpacking all your junk and all your flaws, and you can't point it to somebody else and say you bitter because of them. No, you bitter because of you. You bitter because you're not brave enough to do the work. And I know it hurts. Do the work. Unpack your crap so you can stop bleeding on other people. I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just saying.
Right. I mean, because at some point, you don't want to be serving bitter fruit.
Come on.
And that's where you got to put aside the pride and do your healing, because we're called to bear fruit, and people are drawn to us for nourishing of their souls. I always tell people, when you look at the scripture, it talks about the fruit of the Holy Spirit, and we bear fruit. We bear fruit to nourish souls. People are hurting and they're wounded, and they're coming to us for nourishment. And if your fruit is bitter, they're going to taste it. And so you have to get yourself together so that you are nourishing people properly. Yes, you could be doing a whole lot of good work, but what you feeding folks, them lemons ain't got no flavor. Or, you ever get some bad fruit from someplace, like, man, I bought this watermelon, you be all ready for this, and it don't taste like nothing. You want to give people the best nourishment. You don't want to just be giving them anything. And so you need to do your work so that you make sure that you are producing something well for the people that are coming to you. So it's very important to get that out the way. I know for me, just having that time of self-reflection and figuring out, what it is that I need to heal from now. And as we're talking about Naomi and dealing with loss is, loss being the root of the bitterness, and just looking at what else have I lost, and what do I struggle with loss, and how do I bounce back from that? How do I heal? Because in our culture, we don't deal with loss. This is another Western world thing that we just don't deal with well. In the Eastern world, they deal with loss. They accept that loss is a part of life.
Yeah.
Here, we do not. We cannot handle losing. I can't even handle losing the lottery. I can't lose nothing. And so being able to let it. I saw this one meme one time years ago. Instead of saying let it go, let it be. Just learn to let things be what they are. Getting that mindset of that's just the way things are. Let things be, and being able to move in that place, and then taking that pain to the Lord instead of taking that pain to other people and spewing it. It is a very hard practice. We've talked about this before. Take that pain to him. Go to him in that place of pain and just sit in his presence. Sit in his lap.
He can
in that
handle it.
place of pain.
He
Yes,
can handle it.
his skin is thick enough. And go in that place of pain and let him speak to you there so that he can pull you out of there. But as long as we keep saying, I'm blessed and highly favored in the Lord, everything's great. I'm just good. I'm all right. Everything's good. I'm just keep on serving, and you're not good. God can't meet you because you're pretending. It's not him that's pretending. It's you that's pretending.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And that I've been dealing with, just getting in that place of pain in his face. Like, all right, God, I done lost another friend.
Yeah.
I lost another person in my life, and I don't like losing.
Yeah.
I can lose lots of people, but a friend I can't stand to lose. It's a painful experience for me.
Yeah.
So, taking that to God and be like, feeling whether it's a betrayal or whatever, I just can't stand to lose a friend.
Yeah.
So that's a hurt.
I think eventually if we have power over the hurt, meaning the person is still here, you do your best to try to mend wounds. I do. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes you accept things are beyond your control. For example, I worked so hard on my Thanksgiving dinner for my family. The joy of being up all night cooking. Mm-hmm. And there was no dinner. We did not eat together. There was no dinner served. It just ended up in everything I wanted it not to be. So I had a decision. Honey, you can internalize this and feel like a failure, or you could take the pieces of what you tried to make. I don't have the memory of us ever sitting down. So I thought I was about to fix that. But what I do have mm-hmm. is this twin sister who's this is what I mean by you pick, you choose. You better get some positive memory out that thing so that you don't, when I talked about those negative ones, your subconscious rebirthing and recreating. The positive I choose, this sister usually doesn't feel emotions to that level. When she recognized things were going south and she knew I had tried so hard, she kept saying over and over again to everyone who'd hear, my twin sister did a good job. Honey, you did a great job. You did. You tried. You did wonderful. And they would say X, Y, and Z, and she repeated it. Nope, honey, you did fine. It was as if she saw in her disability. She knew. She saw how it broke me, mm-hmm. and she wanted to make sure I could. Let me put a little light on this so that it doesn't just double in my sister's spirit. And she was looking at me when she was saying it, like, me, make no mistake. Mm-hmm. She said it at least 3 times. Mm-hmm. In the midst of other negative things being said, I could have picked those negative things. I could have. I didn't pick none of them. And what I did the next day, one of my close friends, Stephanie House, her mom's in an assisted living place, and she said, honey, we'd like to have dinner. I had all this dinner left because there was no dinner. So I didn't get to prepare it for my family. She said, my whole family, we ate great. Because there was yams and macaroni and cheese and all the stuff, all the fixings, it was right there, just packed up. I didn't eat anything on Thanksgiving Day. I didn't eat anything the day after. I don't think I've eaten anything today. But somebody else ate it. So what's my joy? They said it was delicious. You pick. Yeah. You pick. You don't allow the negative pieces, even though they're bad. That's a conscious decision I have made, that I'm not letting the negative seep into my subconscious, because its result is bitterness and it's nasty and I can't wear it. It's going to kill me for the rest of my life. I can't wear it. Don't get me started. I can't wear it.
I'm going to try not to go there with you, honey. I'm trying not to. We only got a few minutes left, but at some point, Naomi had to leave Moab. I'm just going to leave that there and go back to the house of bread. But anyway, so we about in the last few minutes of the show. Any closing words you got for the last few minutes of the show?
I think I'll read a poem. Is that all right?
That's all right.
Yes, I'm the poet, so I'm a poet laureate. So I'm probably going to read a little poem every week because it just sounds a little natural. It's a short one. It's called I Wrapped Myself in a Poem, and I wrote this on the night I became poet laureate because I was so excited. I took apart a poet, and the parts of me failed to social identity. I wrapped myself in the layers of casualties. I wrapped myself in a poem and watched Maya Angelou. She was smiling from a distance. Langston Hughes clapped and nodded. Yep, that's my girl. I was safe in this world. I wrapped myself in a poem. For all of my considerations, the rainbow has become enough in Tezake Shange. For the longings, the loneliness, the emptiness, the brokenness, poetry, like my poet mess, I found this poet finally at a poet's rest, marching to her own beaten drum, basking in an African heat, and there I wrapped myself in the rude truth of my identity. There I danced with meter and metaphor, while 14 lines clanged at an unwritten sonnet's floor, and haikus fell on a cut room floor. Everything I presented was enough. I was enough. I am enough, because I wrapped myself in a poem, and a poem told me so. Join us again for Pause, and Pause stands for Purposely Attracting Uniquely Sacred Experiences.
Amen. I like that. See y'all next week. Thank you for joining us.